In this video, I'm going to show you how I made a really cute, cool, glam candle holder dupe. And I'm so excited. Let's just get right to it. What's up, Glue Dots? I'm Elaine, the Midnight Crafter. I am so in love with this next project. Years ago, I found these really cute candle holders somewhere, and I thought I just love them. And I've put them out every year, and I thought they were so cool, and I always wanted to try and duplicate them, but never did. Well, I finally did, and I love the way they turned out, so I cannot wait to show them to you. So instead of chit-chatting, we're gonna get right to this DIY, so I can show you what I did. For this DIY, we're going to need one silver tray from Dollar Tree, and it doesn't matter if it's the round one or the oval one. You'll need one of the glass vases. You can do either the tall or the short, it's up to you. You'll also need some of these ornaments or miscellaneous ornaments if you have some other ones that you like, but just to give you an idea, these here are a bit too big, and these are a really good size, and you'll find both of these at Dollar Tree, but this is the size that you want. You'll also need some pony beads. It doesn't matter if they're gold or silver, that just depends on you. And you'll also want some of these little letter beads, the little square ones. We only will be using one or two, so if you can't find these or you have a different option, that's fine too. We're going to get started by cutting out the base part of our tray here and just keeping the flat part. I have this piece left over from another project, so I'm going to go ahead and use this and not cut up another tray right now. To start out, we're going to take this tray piece and flip it over to the back side and take your vase here, and you're going to be tracing the vase on the back side of your piece here. Now, you can use whatever you'd like to trace it. One thing that I like to use is this little razor knife. Mine's from Dollar Tree. It's the craft knife set. And the reason I like that is not because I'm trying to cut through the plastic, but it just leaves a nice little scrape, and you can also get it really close to the inside bottom part. Sometimes if we use something too thick, the line ends up really thick and we can't tell where to cut. But with this, it's very, very clear as to where we're going to be cutting. And again, I'm tracing it pretty much like almost underneath the bottom of the vase. We are going to be cutting off a lot more than our circle. So you can see very lightly there I have my circle kind of scraped in there. And what I'm going to do now is just cut that out. But the thing is that we're going to need two of these actually, so you do want to trace it out twice. But for one of them, you're actually going to be cutting it about 1/4 of an inch inside of the line that you just drew. And the reason being is because we want this to fit all the way down into the bottom inside of our vase here. And it's very deceiving, but it's actually about 1/4 inch smaller inside the bottom than it is at the top. So start out maybe a little less than 1/4 inch in, but you do want to definitely do a good amount, and you can always cut more, right? You can't cut less after you can't add more on, I should say. Then just check to see if that fits down inside your vase nicely. You can see that it does. Yes, it's a little bit lopsided and maybe not perfectly covering the whole base, but that's not super important. You just want to get sort of the basic circle and get that piece in. Now I'm also going to trace that one more time and cut it out to the actual size of the base of our vase. Or, well, again, we're going to trace it sort of on the inside with our little knife here, and then we're going to cut it on the line. This next piece is going to be eventually getting glued on to the bottom of the vase, so we don't necessarily need it to be exactly up to the edge here, but we do want it to be pretty close. I really love these silver trays. I use them for so many different DIYs, and I don't know if you kind of look through my channel, you're going to see many, many different projects that I've used them for, including one of my most popular videos, my DIY mosaic, wall mosaic. And they make such beautiful shiny pieces that look so elegant and much more expensive than just what you'd expect at Dollar Tree. So we can see now that this fits right there on the bottom side. This is perfect. We're just going to put this aside for later. We're not going to use it right now. Next, we're going to be using our little letter square beads. And what I like to usually do for this is pick one that has either like an I or an O or something that doesn't look like a letter when you're, in case it shows. It really won't show much, but that's just kind of my general practice. And what I'm going to do with this is just take a gold marker here that I have. If you want to spray paint this, you can, but we're going to leave one side of it that has the letter without any paint or pen or anything, because the glue just really sticks better when it doesn't have any other marking, oops, or anything else on it. So I'm just going to go through. If you have like a skewer stick or something you can put this on, that's really helpful actually, but my skewer stick is a little too small for this. If you want to also, you can always do this with a black Sharpie. It doesn't have to be gold or silver. It's really actually not gonna show, and black maybe would even help it disappear even better. So whatever you have available to you, you don't have to go and get anything special. Now we're going to open up and pick an ornament, whatever color you decide you want to use. And I actually have these ornaments and some that I got. I don't know if I got them at Dollar Tree several years ago or if I got them at Walmart after Christmas. But I have these, and I think they're really kind of cute with their polka dots, and I really like them. So I'm actually going to use these as well. And if you can't find something like this or you want to do the polka dots, it's really easy. You can just buy some of the plain ornaments that are this size from Dollar Tree. So these are the bigger ones or the medium-sized ones. And if you can find something just a smaller step down from these, all you would have to do is go in and paint on circles, maybe with either hot glue and then put glitter on, or with some other type of glue. The hot glue would probably work easier since it dries immediately, and then you just dip in and put glitter dots on it. So it's just, I don't have to do that because I found these already done, but definitely something that you can do. So what we're going to be doing is taking our ornament here, and I'm actually going to just put the little strings that comes with it through, and I'm going to, instead of just tying and making a loop, I'm going to tie it first to my ornament just to make it less squirrely. Now I'm just going to pass it through the little bead, the little square bead that I painted gold. And I'm going to tie that off as well. Why is it whenever I'm trying to do this on camera, I can't tie it, but when I'm doing it off camera, I don't have any problem tying it immediately. All right, so you don't necessarily want this to be too terribly long. You maybe, it depends on the length of your vase. So if you're using the taller vase, you have a little more leeway. If you're using the short vase, you need to make this really short. So I'm going to just make it tie at about an inch away. You can see here that my bead is actually pretty close. It's probably 3/4 of an inch or less to where that knot is. And then I'm just going to cut the excess off. We're going to take the bead, the part of the bead that we did not paint, and we're going to glue that on to the center of our smaller circle that we cut out. And for this, I'm actually going to be using a little bit of my E6000 equivalent. It's actually the Gorilla Clear Grip, same type of thing, or you can use the adhesive from Dollar Tree. And I'm going to put a little dot of that, and then I'm also going to be gluing around with a bit of hot glue. You can't really overlap the two, that just doesn't work. They don't stick. It's easier to just remove the ball part of the ornament and just use the lid, so you can go ahead and do that. And I put a dot of my Gorilla Clear Grip glue on there, and we're going to be gluing down our piece right to the center of our circle here. This is the small circle. I'm also going to add some hot glue just around the edges to hold it for right now while it's drying, because we want to be able to continue working. I also kind of like to put the hot glue on the side and have it go a little bit into the hole of the bead, and that I feel like it just will make it stay better over the long term. Not only gluing it to the plastic base here, but also having it go in that hole should keep it in place a little better. So far, we're just going to put this aside for a little bit to dry some. And while we're waiting on that, we're going to actually shorten the length of the string on the other ornament. This one is going to be hanging just below the top one. So again, make sure you account for how much length you have with your vase, because if you make it too long, this will just touch the ground and not hang and move. So you do want to definitely plan for that. If you're using the taller vase, it's not as challenging, but the shorter vase, definitely you have to be aware of that. So I'm just gonna shorten this up by tying a knot a little closer, probably again at about the same point where I had tied the knot on the other one. I'm gonna cut off the excess, and then we're going to be gluing this right to the bottom center of the first ornament, the bigger ornament. I'm just using a bit of hot glue for that. I don't think that it really needs the E6000 equivalent. So I'm putting a dot of hot glue on there right in the center, and then I'm just sticking in my other piece there. And I'm gonna really let that dry well before I set it down because I don't want it to pull away. So here's how I've got it right now. Now we're gonna kind of reassemble all of our ornaments, and then we're gonna also attach the other one to the little plastic piece that we had from our tray. Okay, now we're ready to do something really fun, but first we're gonna double check to make sure this all fits the way it's supposed to. So holding it from upside down from the small ornament, make sure that you can reach in there and actually have that bottom piece lay flat in there, because we're going to be adding glue to that and gluing it to the bottom, but because of the ornaments, we can't actually fit our hand in there anymore. So for this, I'm gonna be using my Gorilla Glue around the edges and just one dot of the hot glue, probably in the center. And I'm just using the hot glue to make sure that everything sort of stays in place, but I guess you don't really have to. I just also like to be able to flip this over right away. So unless you're planning to be patient and let it dry overnight or for a couple of hours, then you probably want to use the hot glue. So once you put the hot glue though, you better be ready to put it in there because this hot glue dries up pretty fast. So right there in the center, I'm going to put a little bit, and then I am going to flip it and carefully drop it right down in, hopefully not getting glue all over the sides of my vase. Drop it right down into the bottom there. Now, if you have a skewer stick or something that you can use to press down in there to make sure that that glue is adhering, that would be really good. Another thing that's really important when you do this is make sure that the inside of your vase at the bottom is clean, because it will help the glue to stick better, and that's going to be really important for this project. Now, if you want, you can throw something a little bit heavy in there to help hold things in place. I'm throwing a candle in there just to give it a little bit of weight. And while we're waiting on that to dry, what we're going to work on is the little feet for our stand. And for that, we're going to be using our little pony beads. The pony beads, we're going to be gluing them together, two together at a time. So for that, I'm just using my hot glue and I'm squirting a little bit of it kind of right where the hole is, and then attaching the other pony bead on top. And you're going to need 4 of these. Now this next part is pretty important because it is the only thing that's going to help these little legs have a little bit of stability to stay on the vase. For this, I'm going to be using a soldering iron. These are really inexpensive tools, $5, $10, depending if you have like a Harbor Freight near you. And this is just a very simple, basic with a pointed tip and nothing fancy. So what I'm going to be doing with this, and make sure you do this in a well-ventilated area because that burning plastic is really not something we should be breathing. Where I'm going to go with the thicker part, not the point part, but the thicker part of this soldering iron, and I'm going to go right on top of the bead. I want this to be equally deep on both sides because this is where the glass vase is going to be resting. So I'm going to just go right in there and press down and melt it until it reaches the little line on the side of our bead. You can see it made like a little dip there, and this is where the glass is going to rest. So this is really important part. Otherwise, your glass just, it doesn't have a place to hold and it just sort of will fall over. So I'm going to do that to all 4 of the legs. It's a really quick process too. Just make sure you don't touch the soldering iron to your fingers because it will sear your skin instantly. And unfortunately, I have learned that by experience. The next thing we're going to be doing is gluing these little feet on the top part, well, it's top part right now, on the open side of our vase. So we're going to want to balance them equally across from each other, 2 and then 2, just obviously like feet would be. And for this, I am going to use my E6000 and the hot glue just because I want these to have a chance to dry without moving around. So I'm going to put my E6000 on the outer edges of my little bead here and the dot of hot glue in the center part. And then just place that right on the edge of my vase, just like that. I'm going to do that with all 4 of the little legs. Now, if you don't want to put legs on yours, you don't have to. The reason I am, for one thing, I really like the way it looks, but the reason I even did it in the first place is when I was trying this project out ahead of time, I did a shorter one and I didn't cut the strings short enough, so my vase wasn't tall enough to allow the ornaments to hang down. So I had to find a way to raise it up. And this is the one option that I found for it. But you don't have to do this part if you don't want to. At this point, we really want to let this all dry real well because we want everything to hold nicely. And then we're gonna come back to do the rest of it. Are you getting value from my channel and from my DIYs? Well, if you are, show me by giving me a big fat thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more of this fun stuff. So the last step, because we can see this ugliness through the inside of the vase and we don't want to see that, that's why we have our last piece here. So you do want to make sure that this part of your vase is nice and clean. And for that, I like to use a little bit of rubbing alcohol, just to make sure there's no oils or anything on the bottom. I actually had some Sharpie marker on the bottom of this too that I'm cleaning off. You can see that. And just this way, you're going to have a better chance that everything adheres nicely and stays on there for you. Now, for gluing this top piece, you won't need the hot glue. You'll just need the E6000 because we don't have any gravity issues working against us. So I'm just going to put that around. Then I'm just going to put this right there on the top. And our project is finished. You ready to see it?